was late. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Can you make sure this on for me? Welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome to the Artist Exchange Radio Show here live on BeExposedRadio.com. I am your host. I'm sorry. Right there on. Take them. Those awesome. Put those on. You don't need them on unless somebody call anyway. Okay. So I'm Nate, the host. Is your phone up? Your phone is on. Your volume. Oh, this is right here. Sorry. No, it's me. It's this headset right here. So I am here. That sounds a lot better. So I'm here. I'm your host, Nate. HullyWood will not be joining us today. It's just a crazy Friday. Anything that can go wrong, it will go wrong if you let it. But I am joined today by a special guest, Mr. Marc Miller.
Hey, how you doing, bud?
We met via Facebook. Like most of the people I've been meeting lately, Facebook started with a thread conversation. So if you read the post today, today is an open conversation. There's no choosing sides. There's no, what's right, what's wrong. It was a question that I put out a couple weeks ago, and the statement was based on a post that I saw about Stevie Wonder choosing to support an All Lives Matter concert. That was it. But the comments are normally the ratchet part. So I normally stay away from comment sections because I have an opinion and I like to give my opinion. So the comments were, so I'm about to start throwing away my Stevie Wonder albums. I'm about to burn these flyers, so and so and so and so. And from me, like, this is a person who has gone beyond the call of duty. His career has been about raising money, raising awareness for the black community, the culture, civil rights, protesting. You name it, he's been the face of it, and he's put not only his money where his mouth is, but he's put his person, his body, and he's been at the forefront. I know he was friends with Martin Luther King. He's allowed his music to be used to support a number of causes. I know he's given countless amount of dollars, time, energy, his talents to helping the cause of helping black people achieve more and XYZ. So the list was nameless, and I'm a fan of I was about to say Sammy Davis, Stevie Wonder, but it went beyond that, because my question then on my post was, why is it that anytime any black person of color or black person or African American person puts their stamp of approval on All Lives Matter, why do other black people just begin to denounce them? And it not to say any other race, or just when other black people would do it, why do we get angry? And it was just a question. I didn't throw it out there. I didn't put any a spin on it, or it wasn't meant to be directed towards any group of people or any specific event, but it was based on and inspired by the post that I read. And from that post, I sometimes forget that this is a possibility for me, because it's only been 3 years that I've been doing radio. So I forget that people actually tune in. I really forget that people listen. And I write on my page as just somebody that's bored at times, and I'm not somebody who's trying to get attention, but I posted it, and a number of my friends began to not only comment, but to call my actual phone, and were very upset with me, because for anybody that says that they support All Lives Matter is automatically saying that you don't support Black Lives Matter. And the same argument that people have against Blue Lives Matter and All Lives Matter is the same thing that we're doing to ourselves as black people. So Mr. Miller sent me a private message, and in this message he wasn't angry, he wasn't, and I'm not speaking for you, but I'm just trying to sum it up. But it was more so the reason behind him sending a private message that kind of made me feel some kind of way, not about Mr. Miller, but just about the question, about the atmosphere. People can't voice their opinions, and I don't like that. I like for everybody to be able to have an opinion, and whether you right or wrong, we could walk away from this table not feeling any differently about each other than we did. But I had friends that be like, I can't believe you feel that way. I never said how I felt. I just asked the question. how is it that we get angry at our own race, at our own individuals supporting all lives? In my family, it's like a rainbow tribe. Like, there are people from all different backgrounds. This aunt married this into this culture, and this uncle now has a baby by this person, and that child is mixed. So I can't feel any way about a race of people without isolating a specific family member. I can no longer do that. At one point, it was possible, but now I absolutely can't do it. And my anger and frustration came at being able to look at, I have a little cousin, a male and a female, and looking at their face, like, if anything was to ever pop off, I'm not saying that it is, I'm not, asking for it to happen, but I would have to protect them, because these are some of the people that, when you look at them, they look like a little white boy and a little white girl. They don't look like the majority of our family look. So when people say things about races outside of the black culture, I take offense to that. So I know this one rant is all over the place, and it's just how I feel right now, but it made me angry that the moment somebody supports everybody's life, then you jump on them as if they are the culprit or they did something wrong. But it was just, I want to put my attention here. It's not that I don't support this. And I found myself the last couple weeks, up until probably last week is when it died down. The thread people stopped responding to it, and friends stopped joining that part of that post in our conversation, and I realized how sensitive people are to that question and to that versus whether you're on the left or the right or anywhere in between. But I asked Mr. Miller here. Actually, I just wanted to meet him and just talk to him, and it turned on, hey, I have a radio show. If you're doing anything, come on and join it, because I would like to open the conversation up and just allow Mr. Marc to voice his opinion and just his thoughts on what happened. So I'm going to open the door up first and just say hello. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
And asking you to first just tell us who you are, before we get into the severity of the situation. But who are you? And just who are you? Let's just start with that.
Just regular working guy.
Just regular working guy.
I got a couple of jobs, so
making the money. Okay.
Yeah, trying to. So.
Are you from Baltimore?
Yeah, originally. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Right now, I live far out. Well, I live in the boondocks now.
Okay.
So
okay.
Like so
comfort, affordability. I get it.
Yeah. No neighbors.
Oh yeah. I think I'm ready for that.
See, no, you are.
But
once you think you are, you are.
Yeah, I think I'm ready for it. But I went to Winston-Salem a couple years back, and it was so quiet, and it was like nobody's gonna say anything. Like,
but the good thing though about quiet though is it allows you to attract and allows you to reset.
Okay.
And being able to reset is an important thing.
Especially is your home.
Yes. Yeah.
Like,
Because think about it. Like if you're surrounded by turmoil in your day to day, and then your work, and then you come down here and you do radio, and then, for instance, like you do the post, and things like that, right? When does Nate get away?
Yeah, that's been a question.
When does Nate separate and detract? And I was talking
but a small part of me is a city boy at heart, and I gotta hear a car drive by, I gotta hear a honking horn, ambulance, it's just a random noise. But my uncle moved to Delaware, and it was a farm, and like literally no street lights. So when it was dark outside, it was dark outside, and I was like, am I ready for that type of living, or like, am I ready to like do an Owens Mills or some area like that where it's kind of secluded, but you still have pockets of city type life going on? Right. So possibly, maybe 40, I think I'll be completely ready.
40?
Yeah, I think 40. Because I got city in me. I like being able to walk to where I'm going if I have the choice of doing that.
That part, I totally get that.
So everything is in reach.
The hike's not that bad though.
Okay.
If you really think about it.
Are you used to, how long have you been out in the boonies?
Off and on for about 10 years now. I kind of had a tumultuous upbringing, I guess, if that's the word.
Were you from the city though?
We had for a time, small period of time. And then I lived with different family members in different areas, and when my parents were like going through their different things, and then we spent a lot of time with my grandparents too. Okay. So, and not a knock on my dad, but he had to work a lot, because he ended up being a single dad. Because my mother, she left twice in my lifetime, and the first time I was a kid, like kid, and I just remember getting up. My dad was he was like in and out of DC at the time, and I just remember getting up at like the 2 o'clock in the morning days, and then just ending up at my grandparents' house. Oh wow! And then going to school from there, and then coming home to there, and then waiting, for my dad. He would have like 70-hour weeks. So, but did that become normal to you, or it never? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I guess. Yeah. Like again, like the abnormal became normal. Right. So the uncomfortable almost became like, comfortable, and then she came back, and and then she had like a 1-bedroom, and worked off and on, and then that was just because I remember being super poor. Like I remember there was times when she couldn't afford like toothpaste. You gotta make them decisions. Do I get soap this week? Do I get toothpaste? Well, that's life decision. And we had spent time on welfare, food stamps, and things like that. So when certain people, when they go and they discuss that, I go, well, I have knowledge like of that, and I can remember. I don't know if that's how you had came up too. I don't know, but as an adult, I've understood it. Well, some of the stuff they give you access to now is so much better than what you had access to back then. So it's expanded. So the benefits have actually expanded. Well, and again, like the benefits is like a tough thing. I'll say resources versus benefits. Yeah, because some people really need that stuff. There's select people that should get it, and again, like then there's folks that they take advantage of the system, and that's and that's not good for anybody. It doesn't matter, and I think that largely that goes back to it always ends up being a racial discussion, and I think that's really stupid. Yeah, I really think that's stupid, like because at the end of the day, like my dad always brought me up like this and this is the last of your worries. Your character, your heart, and your mind is. But you have to be exposed to that type of difference and diversity before you can really understand that there's no difference. And if you're not exposed to it, then you assume that there is a difference. But we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back here on the Artist Exchange Radio Show, only on BeExposedRadio.com.
Last time on Talk Lately.
He don't have Down syndrome.
Man killed after being shot in Charm City Circulator. That's Derek. This is a 26-year-old man was killed after being shot on the Charm Circulator bus Wednesday afternoon. Police. Oh, that was last Wednesday. Okay, good. It wasn't Derek. He did that. His shooting was on Saturday. Police found the victim who had been shot in the stomach at 2:50 p.m. at the bus on the 200 block of South Broadway and Gulf Street. So he was on. It is over east.
Yeah, it's the one that's coming from John Hopkins.
Police believe the suspect and victim argued, then got onto the bus. The bus was still stopped when the shooting occurred. 1 minute. The suspect wearing a black hoodie, black pants, black shoes, white soles. Matt. I know that was that mastermind down there. Okay, somebody go look for mastermind. Hello?
At that point, it's time to go for a break.
Okay, we'll be right back.
Live every Tuesday at 7 p.m. only on BeExposedRadio.com.
Man, it is what it is. Man, it is what it is. Well, it is what it is.
This fly T Miles, also known as Tyree Miles, and Mr. Miles the writer.
Hip Hop K, check us out every Friday on Be Exposed Radio at 9/11.
Coming to y'all soon.
Hey everybody, check out what you missed on the one and only Be Inspired Radio Show. Now here's one little speech I'm going to give you before I get into the next article. Here's what I want to tell you. Still, media, not media, but fear is big business. Fear is big business. I'm not telling you not to be alarmed by what you're seeing. I'm not telling you not to be concerned. What I'm saying is not to buy into the notion that we should be afraid. You should be informed. You should be aware. You should start educating yourself about some things. I don't have the solutions. I don't have the answer. I wish I could say that if you did X, Y, and C, you might not get shot by the police. I wish I could tell you that, but I can't. But what I can say is just start making yourself aware of what's going on, but don't be so consumed by what you're seeing that you become afraid, that you don't want to go out. Or you become numb. That's a good point, Nate. Nate said, or you become numb to it, like you just don't care. So we need you to just continue to be in touch with what's going on, but educate your family, talk to your sons, talk to your daughters, because it's not just limited to men. We know from Sandra Bland, she was a young woman who was killed. And we don't want to say, we don't know all the details of how it happened. No, the fact is that person's life still matters. They still have rights. They should not just be killed dead before they even get a trial. Okay, that's the point. They deserve a trial at least, but they can't even make it to the jail cell to get a trial, to be tried. They're being killed even before arrest. Terrible. So that's my soapbox.
Tune in to Be Inspired every Wednesday live at 7 p.m. right here on Be Exposed Radio.
From the new season of Talk Lately with Monty about Jennifer Holliday.
Anyway, let's get back to
Yeah, well, what I wanted to say is that I can understand 100% where Jennifer Holliday is coming from, and that's sort of kind of where my 20% came from. When I basically came out and said who I voted for, I received a lot of backlash. Even on my own talk show, which comes on every Monday from 5 to 7 p.m., I was called a coon. Okay, yeah, shout out for the plug. But yeah, someone actually, they told CJ Bernie that I was a coon, and that really hurt me. I've been called everything from a fat whatever and everything, but someone actually commented on his Facebook. I didn't even say that. That's kind of rough. Called me a coon, but it's like it's crazy because I just feel like
you are listening to BeExposedRadio.com.
Hold on, Welcome back to the Artist Exchange Radio Show here live only on BeExposedRadio.com. I'm having an awesome conversation with Mr. Marc Miller. He's joined me. Not even to get back, we're going to get into that conversation a little bit later, but just getting to know Marc. And for me, it was hard after my experience with high school, getting to know people of different cultures, only because I felt like that's when I realized I was black. Like, I had been taught that I was black, I had been shown that I was black, I had, experienced black culture, but until you're out in the world and on your own, and I was, getting to school on my own, mom wasn't dropping me off, that's when I learned, interacting with people of different cultures, that I was black. And you learn that in a way that I did not know what that meant, but I knew I was black in a different type of way other than pride. I just knew it looked ugly. It felt ugly, I'll say it that way. But talking to Marc and just discussing who we are and figuring out we may have things in common. Marc grew up in Baltimore, and his experience, like a lot of people in the city, it wasn't the most pleasant, but it was normal to you. That became your norm. So talk more about, just being a kid in the neighborhood, and did you see diversity, or at what point did you see people of other cultures and begin to interact with them? And you was telling me about your dad.
Yeah, so back when my mother and everything had settled down, at this point I'm in the county. So, and I'm growing up, and I lived in a couple of different neighborhoods, and one of them was called Bentley Park Apartments, and it was a really, really strange and odd neighborhood. Like, it's not what it was like. It was just different. And
in terms of the mixture of people, or
it was just. And I went to a different elementary school than all those kids did, so I was already the outcast. Essentially, me and my brother were. because we had my dad's address still. So like, we would go back and forth between households. Okay. So we had like 2 different sets of friends, 2 different this, like 2 different that.
Oh, okay.
And of course, then with that comes again structure of 2 different sets of rules. Now, unfortunately, my father wanted to enforce rules, and my mother was a little more lax,
right?
Because she wasn't always in the right state of mind with things.
Right.
So that came with a lot of wandering. A lot of trouble on my behalf. God bless her soul, but, if she could be here to tell you, man, there was multiple times when I came home, at 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 in the back of a cop car.
Wow.
For being a knucklehead, just being ignorant, just being stupid, and...
Was it attention, or was it... Okay.
No, I fully down the wrong road. Fully, and, they say that when you don't know what you're doing, well, I had a feeling I knew what I was doing.
Yeah.
Because you know at a teenage age, if you're aware of yourself and you know what you know.
Unless that's just been your life, you pretty much know.
Yeah. Well, I was a knucklehead and I knew that. So I was firm in how I wanted to be.
Right.
And because everybody around me was being a knucklehead. That's I sided with the knuckleheads.
It was fun. It's fun being with the knuckleheads sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes, yeah. Right. Sometimes. There's a big distinction.
Did you ever, just the police bring you home, did you ever had to do, like, some time, or were you...
No. There was a time when there was a really bad situation that had happened, and luckily the charges were dropped. So, and there was a few other things that obviously I'm 10 years removed, so I can say, like, there's other things that definitely should have required charges, and
did you learn your lesson from it, or did you have to?
I'll be 28 on Tuesday, and I'm not where I want to be, so of course, of course, because at that age, like, while other kids were studying and preparing for the SATs, I'm being an idiot,
right?
And again, like, after, when I have kids, I don't have any at the moment. When I do, I'm going to stress to them that what you do as soon as you turn 15, 16, it's going to impact you 10 years down the road. Because once you hit 18...
I just talked about that with my students today.
And it's insane. Like, because once you hit 18, there is no more playing around.
There's a 5, 7, and 10 year cycle. And it's not 15 to 16, it's from day one. So but from day one, somebody else is in charge of your foundation building. But by the time you get to 15 to 16, you're starting to get your independence. So your decision making should have already been fostered at that time. You still will make mistakes, but if you don't know how to get up from them, if you don't know how to admit what you did and learn from it, all those consequential things and responsibilities, the 5, 7, 10 year thing starts to happen. So in 5, 7, 10 years, the decisions that I made today, I'm living in the consequences or the results or the given circumstances of those decisions 5, 7, and 10 years from now. And it's a cycle. So if I didn't learn money management as a child, by the time I'm 25, I'm making stupid mistakes. At 18, I get a Capital One card and I max it out. And now my limit was $200. But by the time I'm 25 years old, I owe $1,200 on that $200. And now I'm in debt and recurring things, and I'm not realizing you got to pay your cell phone bill on time, and now I owe this company that. And you don't know these things, so you are stuck in a point where I got to now get out of this. So you spend all this time until, like, I'm 34 now, paying off things that I made mistakes and bought, and I didn't know better, and instead of putting my money here, I did it for temporary, right now things. So I call it the 5, 7, 10 year cycle, and you're constantly living in it. So if you learn money management now at 25, 35, you're okay. You're probably still paying off some things, but you know things, and then it goes from that cycle.
Credit is important.
The most important thing.
And so to go back a brief bit, sorry. So I'm 16 and still a knucklehead, but starting to get together. And it was my older brother, his 18th birthday. I come home and my mother was, on drugs. And she was like, doing the, swaying back and forth, and she got a kick in her head, and she was just like, I'm leaving. Oh, wow. So she packed her shit and left.
And what did that mean for you and your brother?
We were on our own again.
Wow.
Yeah. She's left.
So was at that point you were used to that, or?
Well, it had happened when I was a kid, and then there were some weekends in and out of that time frame where she was gone.
But not like back. Long period.
It was never like I'm just leaving. So she made a phone call, and she left, and I was like, and my stepfather, God bless him, he was like, he goes, I know what you're doing, I know what you're up to, I know everything that you're doing. He was like, so next time you come home in a cop car, the next time you get into a squabble, teacher call anything, you're gone, you're up the road. So my father had remarried and he moved. So he was like, holy shit, like, what are we gonna do? And I'm like, and I was getting ready to get into some trouble because of something that happened, and there was other things going on, and I was like, I gotta make a change. Like, I was like, I gotta start going to school. I gotta stop skipping school. I gotta, so I went back to the classroom, and I just buckled down.
Right.
And my brother had dropped out, and he was working, and he was just, helping me out as best as he could, because he was like, this is crazy. So
I'm sorry to cut you off. We got to take a quick break. Don't forget to call in 410-702-5657 if you have some questions or you want to, comment or say hello to Mark. Definitely call us again, 410-702-5657. We got to pay some bills. We'll be right back.
Yeah, so
You are listening to BeExposedRadio.com. Check out this snippet from the new season of Talk Lately with Monty when he rants about his staff.
I agree. Can you come on? I told you stop touching that button. Why is it so loud? God. Did you turn one all the way up again? Do I have to come in there? God damn her. If it was going right, I would let you do your part, but I'm sorry, but it's just not functioning the way it's supposed to be. You're live on the air. I told you mind your business.
Well, Monty, if I can comment on the Jennifer Holiday situation, I know I'm live on the air. I'm sorry, 1 second. Okay. I know I'm live on the air. This is why this whole show is called Talk Lately.
Anyway, let's get back to every Tuesday at 7 p.m. only on BeExposedRadio.com.
Do yourself a favor and listen to this hilarious flashback on Charm City Direct Radio.
You are listening to BeExposedRadio.com, the home of Talk Lately with Monty, every Tuesday at 7 p.m.
Thank you for tuning in to BeExposedRadio.com. Sit back, relax, and listen to this flashback of the Artist Exchange Radio Show.
What does hustle hard mean to you? What does that signify in your life?
That's a lifestyle for me. You know what I mean? Like, true story, I was born into a family and a community of hustlers. Now, let's get focused right quick, because when people hear the word hustler, they confuse it with con artist or something negative. So they like to call people entrepreneurs, right? But the definition, and I'm paraphrasing, but the definition of hustle is forced movement or to be hurried, right? But we're not talking about just pushing other people. Sometimes you got to push yourself, and that what makes you a hustler. True story. So the thing about it is, like, when it comes to hustling, listen, quick story. I used to go buy juleps a lot, right? And my grandmother used to make me clean the yard, shovel snow, do things like that to go get a julep. But one day she was like, look, you putting all your money in someone else's pocket. Word. Save those quarters, and then I can teach you how to make a formula, and you can sell your own juleps. You understand? So the next couple weeks, I saved my money.
Always a hustler.
Listen,
got to love
but think
everybody
about
got
this.
a grandma story like that.
Grandmothers are the natural hustlers because they were the ones who maintained and sustained our families through epidemics. You're talking
Yeah.
Big Mama went through slavery and held it. You talking Big Mama went through the Depression and held it. Big Mama went through crack and held it and still maintains it today. So if you don't think you come from a hustler,
you are listening to BeExposedRadio.com.
The layers of what's going on, what's happening, and what caused the behavior. And we do that with children, we do that with adults, and then children then become adults, and we keep treating the behavior. And we're not getting to the source. Now, there's a lot of things going on as far as therapy and psychiatrists being readily available now. There's so many treatment centers, there's so many wraparound services, centers out there that helping people to really start to uncover what is going on deeper than the behavior. The behavior is just the surface. Right. That's the reaction to whatever happened. So with your mom, it may be a thing of that was just a coping mechanism. It's simply whatever you went through, you found your way in this, and you realize this calmed down the voices, this shut down whatever, those skeletons were, and it became something that just helped me to get through this.
Gravitated.
Now, right, I never did drugs, but that's the thing I've always assumed, that drugs has helped to quiet and normalize what is going on. But what happens is, when I come down from that, reality is still there.
Yeah, and
it hasn't gone anywhere.
And I did my fair share. So I mean, I wasn't into like heroin or coke or anything like that. I wasn't into like heroin or coke or anything like that. But I've done them. Not opiates or anything like that. But I mean, I took my fair share of Percocet and drank.
But at some point it's recreational. Everybody's doing it. Let me try it, and then you do it. But you realize it's protecting you from something.
When you're not doing it in a social scene is when you should start to worry.
Right.
When you not like so when you begin to normalize abuse, that's when you should begin to worry.
Right. It becomes a crutch at that point.
Right. And see, like, I like the idea of having therapists around, but not the therapist with the pad.
Right.
Because that leads to a huge problem.
Oh, prescriptions, you mean?
Oh my God!
So a psychiatrist.
Yeah, and
right.
And again, it's such a crazy topic, because then people go, well, it touched the white community, so that's a problem. No, I don't see. And this goes back to a lot of different things, but I look at it like, you're a human being. We're both American citizens, whatever, and we both deserve a certain amount of respect, and we both should have a certain amount of integrity and everything else like that. I look at it like this: if you are sitting on the side of the road asking me for money, right? That's affecting me in a certain way, and just like it's affecting you, like, and I think we've become insensitive to that, and
because it's not my problem.
But see, again, when there's certain people that want to help and they have and they offer a suggestion, there's certain times where they go, well, you're white, you can't talk about that, or you're black, you can't speak about that, or you're this, or you're that, and like when me and somebody, we got into a discussion at work one time about some of the things that are going on in Chicago and things like that, and I was like, that's insane to me.
Right.
Like, you don't know what you're losing every time one of those young kids dies. You do not know what you're losing.
Yep.
We don't know. That kid never had a chance to grow up. Are you like? And that's normal. Like, that's the thing that they broadcast, and it's terrible.
But is it? I'll ask you just outright.
Okay.
Do you understand why black people are angry?
Yeah.
So in understanding why black people are angry, for you, your one single individual self, you understand it. But can you see how then on the other side of the token, there are tons of people who don't get why black people are angry or feel displaced or just disgruntled, just angry when we bring up topics like this? Like, I
think it's because it's the direction of where it goes. And
meaning, can you explain that for us?
Because it never stays on not mutual, but it never stays on like it never stays level. But you're dealing with people. You're dealing with people that have emotion.
Right.
And I hate that's something that it's a tough one to fix, but we all have to want to fix it. Like, we are living in this country.
How do you suggest we can fix? I mean, the problems are deep seated. They were from day one of the country. How do we kill that and still move forward? Is it possible, in your opinion, from your perspective?
Yeah, okay, so it really takes time, okay? And it really takes time, and it takes people being dedicated. But it also takes people to have the open mind to want to, like, help. Right. And for people to accept help and go, well, you know, this white guy's going to help me, so should I take his help or not? Because there is that happens, and it sucks, because then they have, like, the self-hate word, or like, oh, he's Uncle Tom and he's doing this, or crazy stuff like that, and I go, huh? Because someone wants to help, someone offers a suggestion.
Well, and when you responded to me, my response to you was, there has to be some type of understanding to know that people took the help at one point and realized they were an experiment, that it was a catch, and at some point you become, a wall goes up, and I don't want anybody that looks like that person to help me, because then what happens is I don't trust it. Right, I begin to generalize that distrust.
And what happens is it goes back to, like, how my father had told me, like, you have to treat everybody as an individual, and you have to either understand or forego that, and you have to understand that life comes with preconceived notions
from everybody.
It does, correct. It does. It just does. Like,
because somebody will look at you and assume that you from Baltimore and you've lived and you've had your experiences, that you still don't get how hard it is for the average individual that wants something out of life. I just want to be able to have a home, a roof over my head, and be able to pay my bills. That's it. If nothing else, just those basic necessities.
Back when I worked in the club scene, and we were out one night and we were supporting a buddy of mine. He had a night at Soundstage. He did a college night. There was a black gentleman, and every night that I saw him, which was every Thursday, he knew that if he walked around there, he knew I was going to give him money. Now, a lot of people didn't know anything about this guy. Years ago, he had saved somebody's life.
Oh, okay.
He had helped somebody. And I gave him like $10 every time I saw him. And there was a couple from Bel Air, I believe, and somewhere far up 83. He was like, "Why are you giving that bum money?" Hold on. So that guy's a hero. He needs to be recognized for that.
Right.
You know, I know $10 isn't like the biggest thing in the world to him,
but for probably in that moment it was.
Well, I'm not even saying it's a step in the right direction, because I think that's, you know, but it's a good gesture. He did something that was fantastic, and I don't think he was, obviously, he's still walking the street with nowhere to go. I don't think he was rewarded the way that he should have been.
Right.
You know, and again, the whole thing with, like, part of my thing with you that I want to discuss was how I feel like we could fix some of the structure in Baltimore City with the family and everything else. Like, for instance, Baltimore City has the third highest funded school system, or did at one point, okay, and had terrible test results. Right. Now, some people look at that and go, well, we cut all the funding. No, that's potential, because you should have kids from all over the state fighting to go to those schools at that point. Why? Because you're going to get the most attention. It brings good things for sports, teachers, accolades, business, whatever.
But that's the answer to when something that's going right, it's money, the bottom line.
I get that part, but here's the thing. You're dumping all that money into the school system, okay? Now, I feel kind of weird bringing this up, but my brother-in-law is black. Okay? My sister-in-law is Jewish, but my brother-in-law and my sister, they don't have any kids together yet. My nephew, she has a child with another guy who's a piece of garbage, and I hope he rots. I do. He's a piece of work. We'll get to that another time. He's a horrible person. So, my nephew calls him Dad. And people like see him out in public and they go, what? And my nephew is like, that's who a child picked that guy to be his father. That's his dad. Why? Because of how that gentleman raised him.
Right.
And what he's instilling in him. You know? And then I remember his other 2 kids and my niece. Oh, Mark, man, I want these shoes. I want this. What are your grades like? What's this like? But it made me think about something, and I was like, that's how we can kind of begin the discussion of how we can try to fix some of the problem. Now, some of these kids, right, they're getting it 4 different ways, okay? They have to deal with their environment. Now, I work with some real estate stuff down here. I've been in some pretty seedy areas in Baltimore City. I've seen and been around some things. Hey, white boy, what are you doing here? Blah, blah, blah. Dealt with it all. Said, all right, look, I got, whatever. I'm here for this. And other people don't mess with you because they know you're probably here for work, or you're here for business, or you're here for doing something else.
Right.
So we have to work to really rebuild a family structure, right? Now, and some people go, well, capitalism and free market is not the answer. I disagree. Strongly disagree. Now, with capitalism and the free market, right, if there was no such thing and it was all terrible, I think that having black in business is great, because if people who feel like they can't participate in the real free market, well, then you have a market now, right? It allows you to participate, allows you to make money, right? It allows you to hire people and everything else like that, which in turn so let's just say it's all one way, right? Well, then it allows you to buy cars and buy houses and buy things, right? So now you're in the free market. Now you're in the society that is normal for people that look like me, right? So now you're in there. Now you're playing ball, right? So I was like, you know what? Let's go back to rebuilding the family structure. Now, how do we do that? Well, first of all, we got to put dads back in the household. That is the biggest thing. Now, again, I'm not knocking any single moms or anything like that, right? I think they have a hell of a job to do, especially in certain inner city areas. They have a crazy job that they have to do and they have to take care of, and they should be given the utmost credit. Okay, where do you learn to get your discipline or something from? Just hearing a man tell you that he's disappointed in you would do a whole lot more to you than a woman crack a belt at you.
And especially if that man was consistently in your life.
Correct.
And you saw something in that man of responsibility. You saw those qualities in that guy.
Right. So I think that we need to fix that. And some of that is with the way that some of the welfare systems are set up, right? Sometimes a man is not allowed to be in the household. And I know that. It varies.
Right.
It does vary. But once you've taken the man out of the picture, right, what are you going to have happen?
It's definitely a disconnect and confusion. But what I would say right now, a lot of people get angry when you say things like that.
Right.
One, because it's not everybody's story, of course.
Yeah.
But for the greater majority, it is. I remember for middle school, I went to St. Ignatius. And it was a charter school that just started through St. Ignatius Church down off of Calvert Street. And we were the second class that joined. And one of the things what happened was they had a lot of programming that they tried to instill, because we were all boys. We were in middle school. We were at that age where testosterone and getting in trouble was starting.
Right.
But there was this group that they started called Rainbows. It was for young men who came from single parent homes. Now, in that school at that point, there were 6th graders and 7th graders at that point. The majority of us may have had a dad, may have had a male figure in our life, but we definitely all, for the most part, I say 75% of the school lived in a single parent home with a mom. And it was the craziest thing, because the young men that weren't in it were the minority. And all of us that were a part of that program and did the after school program, it kind of united us a little bit, because it wasn't funny anymore. It wasn't a joke. We didn't have that issue of teasing somebody because they didn't have this person in their life. And we had that problem at first. In 6th grade, we had that problem in teasing a couple people who didn't have certain parents in their life. But when you realize we all share the same common experience, that we didn't have our birth dad in our house. in our lives in general. It really did something to the psyche of a lot of us because we had to admit it. And that program was specifically for that. So you knew why you were there. You knew why you were put in that program. And I think for a lot of black people, it's shame that's attached to it. And I say black people, but this is something that's going on with a lot of other cultures too. And once you learn and once you meet people, you realize that everybody experiences these things. But when it's your culture, it feels embarrassing is the meaning, because an individual that does not, we share the same experience, but we aren't the same. Clearly in society there's a difference. There's a distinction. And we have to understand that. We have to admit to that, but we don't have to stay in that. That distinction doesn't have to stay that distinction. But in my travels and doing all these things and meeting different people, I'm learning that people like the difference. They want to keep that difference because it means something. It's a safety net in that difference on both sides of the spectrum. Yeah. And we have to maintain that. And for some reason, we don't want to branch out. And I'm speaking for myself. It took me a long time to really cross over that line because of my experiences in, say, high school. It really, as an adult, it took me a long time to really trust somebody of a different culture, because I saw how you smile and I knew what the deal was. You really didn't want me at that sleepover, and I couldn't move past that. I really could not move past it, and your trust in people has to be different. So we're gonna come back in a couple more minutes. We're gonna take another quick break. We'll be right back here on the Artist Exchange Radio Show on BigExposedRadio.com with my guest, Mr. Miller, Mark Miller, when we return. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
You are listening to BeExposedRadio.com.
There's a rumor going around that Tyler Perry and Oprah are beefing. Well, let me tell you about this. Tyler, told Oprah, bitch, if you don't have my money, we're going to have a problem. Ooh. Oprah said, what is the problem? Ooh. You said if I don't have your money, there was going to be a problem. So Oprah is standing her ground like, bitch, I'm in charge. Yeah, you know, you may have a $250 million studio over there that you film all your shows and movies and stuff on, but I have the empire. That's what Oprah said.
Oh, these are her exact words. Allegedly.
I made this up. But allegedly. I made it all up. But there was a rumor that they were beefing. But Tyler confirms that they don't have any issues. So it says it was recently reported on the rumors that
you are listening to BeExposedRadio.com.
I think I shared with my co-host and like my best friend your reaction, and it wasn't even, I don't even think you reacted to anything. You just had a perspective.
Yeah, it was just my like outside looking in, going like, wow.
And we're back, Eric. So we're back right now on the Artist Exchange Radio Show here live on BigExposedRadio.com. Let me just say, first of all, I am exhausted. I never thought teaching summer school would be so exhausting. I have a class full of young ladies that are testing me in ways that I didn't think I could be tested. You have to be sensitive around young ladies, but you got to be stern at the same time. You got to watch what you say. You got to watch how you say it, because they don't listen to words. They listen to feeling. And if you say the wrong thing at the wrong time and the wrong combination of feeling, thoughts, and words, it can be ugly. And this is a very rewarding part for me, because I had gotten out of teaching art and theater to young people, because I want to be around young people that want to learn it. Is a difference, because then you're a babysitter any other time. Yep. And I don't want to get into that field. But today's topic, getting back to the topic at hand, is Black Lives Matter versus All Lives Matter. There's no distinction for me between any of them. I'm sorry, I just don't have a distinction because I look at my mother's face and I know who my grandfather was. You know, I look at my little cousin's face and I know who their mother is, and it's several different instances. So I can't choose. For me, the severity of tons of young people, black young men and women being killed and harassed on a daily basis, I've grown numb to it in the last couple years, constantly seeing it. Ended up now with the Philando Castile case, like stuff like that. I can't not understand why Black Lives Matter is so serious. You can't understand it. And without saying but, I still value lives in general. I just do.
That, not because y'all, I'm sorry. When I saw that video, that was probably like one of the most disturbing things I've ever seen in my life. That guy, okay, so not to take away from the fact that he shot that guy, there's a kid in the back seat of the car. There's a kid. There's like I just had this conversation with somebody today, and I said, I'm still shocked that that guy even fired in a car. Well, there was a kid.
7 shots
in the back seat of a car. Now I don't know what your experiences are with firearms.
I don't have any.
Okay.
None.
A bullet can hit that cloth and get through it very fast.
It can hit a body and go through it.
But it can go through that car, hit the car seat, hit him. If you look where, unfortunately, where it showed in part of the video, it could have easily went through the arm part where it hit here and went through and
from that video, it was distorted in that the way her front camera was facing us.
Right.
So it looked as if everything was flipped.
Right.
But if you realize where they were sitting at,
right behind him.
him.
That's why I said that. Like,
it could have went directly through because where the young lady was sitting was over his shoulder.
Yeah.
Because the little girl was behind the young lady.
Right.
So it could have went directly through him and went.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That. And then there was the gentleman in South Carolina, Scott. I can't recall his.
I don't remember the name, but I just read that case.
Yeah, ridiculous.
Like reading Philando Castile case.
That was like, and again, regardless of what that guy's character was or whether he did or didn't do that. Like when he told that cop like he was armed, right now again in the state of Maryland because it's very this state is so goofy with laws. That cop, as soon as he said I'm armed,
but that was Minnesota.
Yeah. And their law, like you can be anybody and get a gun out there, from what my understanding is, which is fine. I believe that citizens should be allowed to arm and protect themselves. I have no problem with that. I think that our carry laws in the state are goofy.
Right.
I do. I honestly do.
Well, is it more so because when I was reading, so the case, what I'm doing this summer is I am helping the young ladies to understand the responsibility of jury duty, you know, the civic responsibility that we have to our cities and states in terms of being on a jury, and they're acting as jury members on a fictitious case of the Philando Castile's Officer Geronimo. I think I'm saying his name correctly.
Yes, Geronimo.
So
is it Castillo or
no? Castile is
that was Philando.
Yeah, Philando is the gentleman. But in the facts,
right,
in Minnesota, you can have a registered weapon.
Yeah.
You don't have to tell them that you are carrying. The other thing is, if you are carrying it, it has to be in a separate case. It has to be unloaded and locked.
Yeah, the gun and the magazine have to be in different compartments of the car, technically.
Right.
And that's true here with some things. Like if you're going to the shooting range, for instance,
right,
you have to separate magazine and gun.
Okay.
Now, the thing that totally...
But that's only if you're carrying it outside of your home.
Correct.
Okay.
Unless you have a carry concealed permit, which is like damn near... Like the state police have to determine that you're not a threat.
Okay.
And see that, and again, that goes back to the difference between people being able to carry licensed lawful firearms and people carrying unlicensed unlawful firearms.
Okay.
It's the process of which you go to obtain it.
Oh, okay.
So there is some differences. There is that.
because there are loopholes in the laws, and
you don't follow the law.
Right, right.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm just saying the law is set up, but in this specific case,
it is insane.
And this is what when I come across people that are not black, and because this is mainly happening to black men and then women and then every other race in that order, the part that they don't seem to understand is this is not something we heard about. This isn't something someone hearsay that gave us hearsay. This is actual evidence that we see on a video. Now, there's some moments before that we didn't see, but then we saw that in the dash cam video and them pursuing him. So my question is always, not so much do you understand why we're angry or why we get so hostile and we're so hot-headed at this moment in time, but can you clearly side with the families, the people that are constantly... Are you as numb to these things as we... Because a lot of us can't even watch them anymore.
I think across the board, I think it's disturbing. And of course, I'm not a cop.
Right.
I don't think I have any police. No, I don't even have any police in my family. So I can't make that distinction and say, are you really just going out and doing that? I think in fact that's malicious. Now, in certain aspects, like for instance in Baltimore City, 10 cops have I think it was a total of 10 the last 2 months. Does anybody know that have been indicted?
Are you serious?
I think 3 just got indicted the other day, and they were using citizens to set people up and to rob other citizens.
Oh wow!
Yeah, that's wrong.
But you don't hit. That's not being publicized.
It made the paper.
Okay.
It made the paper. And there was a white officer. I can't remember the name of him for the life of me. And he was going out, and he had made a claim and was like, he's like, we shook down certain people. Now, to backtrack a little bit to get back to this case. Now, when he tells that officer that he is armed, if that would have been me, I would have stepped back and removed myself from the situation and said,
as an officer?
Yeah. Okay. Because at that point, you're on top of the guy, right? Now, granted, the nature of what's going on. Now, he told the officer he was carrying.
Yeah, he said, I have a concealed weapon and I have a license to carry it. So, in my train of thought, I go, so he had zero intent then to hurt that guy. He told you outright he was armed. He had no intention. I don't believe that he had malicious intent. For him to tell you.
Correct. That says a lot. To tell you, hey, I have a gun.
It didn't sound like a warning. It didn't sound like...
It wasn't like he was back
Hold on. Let's... Because this is what I want. This is what I need to talk about. But we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back here on the Artist Exchange Radio Show. Only on BeExposedRadio.com. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Check out this flashback from the Artist Exchange Radio Show. I'll let you speak on it. You know it better than I do.
All right, thank you, Nate. So the Say It Loud Film Festival is happening on April 16th, which is next Saturday from noon to 10 p.m. at nighttime. And we have partnered up with the No Boundaries Coalition. So I got to tell you the address real quick. It's 1947 Pennsylvania Avenue, which is where the Jubilee Arts Center is located. So we've partnered up with the No Boundaries Coalition, and the No Boundaries Coalition hosts an annual block party right there where we're going to be having the film festival. This is the 9th annual Boundary Block Party, and they are providing shuttle buses to take people to the voting booths because the Maryland primaries open on that same April 16th date that we're having the film festival and the block party. So we're going to be partnering up and promoting each other, and there's going to be these shuttle buses taking people to the voting booths to go vote, and we're going to have live music, live poetry, live dancing from a local high school, and then films start at 7 p.m. at nighttime. So that's basically what's going on for the Say It Loud Film Festival in West Baltimore.
Tune into the Artist Exchange every Friday, 7 p.m. to 9 p.m., every Saturday, 12 p.m. to 2 p.m.
Whoa. The moment my son saw a redwood tree.
It's huge!
age is the moment I knew that for him,
you can't even see the top of that thing.
Even the sky has no limit.
There are some moments only the forest can inspire. Find yours at discovertheforest.org. Learn about forests near you and discover cool things to do when you go. Your moment is out there. Find it at discovertheforest.org.
Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service and the Ad Council.
Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Monty from Talk Lately. I want y'all to sit back and listen to this flashback. We be tripping.
I mean, really, but I mean, he might have. I got him maybe jacking her up.
The kids said he did it.
But this is Floyd Mayweather punching her head repeatedly, and like she doesn't have like brain damage.
No, she didn't have brain damage. I don't think he was hitting her like that. Or he probably was like, say something else. Say something else. He probably wasn't like tagging her.
Right.
He probably was just like, and the kids was like, Daddy.
Why do they have the accent? Why do his kids have that accent?
I just pictured them looking like Africans. Oh. I didn't want to have to admit that. I don't know what they're going to do about my mouth, but just check out the show every Tuesday at 7 p.m. It's more of the same right here on BeExposedRadio.com.
Looking for your next home? Kemp & Associates is a full-service real estate and property management company that's been serving the community for 18 years with due diligence. They have 2 locations and 27 agents to serve the Central Maryland area. Call for your residential needs at 410-580-0606, located at 1328 Ricestown Road, Suite B, and 5248 Ricestown Road, Unit 2. Meet them online at www.baltimorehomesource.org. Kemp & Associates, your home specialist. Don't make a move without us.
You are listening to BeExposedRadio.com.
There's just so much, man.
Is it frustrating to you to know what the problem is and just see it not being solved? Or
it's frustrating when you have like an opinion and you're trying to be objective and you try to see it from both sides, and then when you say something again, like when you were saying like how when you're dealing with women and things like that, like your wording, the way you say it, how you say it, the context, everything else, like when you say something, it's like it gets taken completely out of proportion, and then you get a label. You could be the most open-minded person, the most objective person, and then you get a label because you're like, well, look, I feel like I feel like I had to PM you because of the response,
right?
Because they go, no, this guy, we might as well cut his hood and give it to him. And meanwhile, they don't know, like...
You're saying the same thing that they're saying?
Well, not even that. They don't understand that, like, I have relatives that are considered minority. Like, I have a brother-in-law who is black. Like, and then when you say that, right, they go, well, you're just saying that so you don't look that way. That's
to match the quota in their mind.
It's craziness.
But I get it, and I'm starting to understand it because I'm meeting different people,
right?
And I'm just as angry at all that is happening, and I understand what is going on, but at the same time, I just want everybody just to open your eyes a little bit wider to what is going on and what is not being said and what the narrative that's being, and it's not just the media, it is all of these cultural pockets that are putting information out there from all angles, that's putting information out there, so it is imbalanced in many ways, and it is, it's kind of padding the situation in many cases, so you do see the severity of it. But it really, so going back to the statement that the post that I had put on Facebook that you read, so in reading that, what was your response? I'll ask you, in your own concise way. What was your?
I'd have to go back and.
Well, I'm just saying. So, and we'll do that. But it's more so. the reason you felt like you had to send me a private message versus a public message.
Because of the attitude towards the response then that you get. Like, they automatically, you're labeled.
Right.
And even if you're not that way, like you get a label, and then you go, and then again, like, it shuts down dialect, because as soon as
communication,
you go, right, and that's like the most important thing is to have communication. Like, and again, like, I hate the fact that they go, well, he's a black guy talking to a white guy on this program. Oh my god! And I think it's goofy. Like, I think it, like, but again, like, unfortunately, like, that's part of the picture that gets painted.
I wanted clarity. I wanted understanding, because a lot of the young people that I work around, a lot of the young people that are here, they're all millennials out there. The engineer, my it's not foreign to them to be diverse or to be on just one side. So it's black or white.
And then sometimes, like, I want to ask the question to folks, like, well, how much interaction have you had with other cultures?
Right.
If you live in a majority neighborhood that represents and looks like you, how many, like...
Or has your experience been limited to the negative side of what you're talking about?
Right, like, right, exactly. So, like, there's some Jewish people that live in an all-Jewish community.
Yeah.
There's some Asians that live in an all-Asian community. There is no whites, there's no blacks, there is no anything. It's just them, right? And that's all that they see, that's all they grew up around. So I go, well, have you... And I look at them and go, well, have you had a negative interaction with a white person, or let's go further and say a white police officer, or a white authoritative figure, or whatever you want to call it? And if they go no, I go, okay. Not that it's like, well, I can't fix the wrongdoing there, and then I go, well, what happened? Why do you think that happened? And again, I try to be objective, because I go, like, there's a young man, he just got stabbed down in College Park. And I think it was, I don't know if you had heard about this, but apparently the kid was getting ready to graduate, or he did graduate. And
I think it was about to graduate. I think
it was a white guy that stabbed and killed the black gentleman. I believe he was black. I didn't get and then I saw, and they were like, he didn't get charged with a hate crime. And I go, well, was this guy a member of the Klan? Was he a member of the Aryan Brotherhood? Like, was he any of these things? And if he is, then yeah, definitely charge him that way.
But would he have to be a part of one of those groups for you to for that to be considered a hate crime?
He wouldn't. I would say that him identifying as that would, because then you can single out those people,
right?
Because then you can begin to latch on to the so if this guy was a part of this. Okay, well then it means there might be more than an area.
And that's a growing argument that people are having, that because this type of person did this to this type of person, race or gender or sexuality is numbered out of that. But on the other side, why did you do it? And that connects you to why this is happening.
Well, when the so here this was two incidences that happened over there was the moron from Hamden who went to New York, and he stabbed the black guy, right? And he said, I did it to start a race war. Well, you're a moron. Because, again, luckily in the world, there lives and there are more sensible people than that. And that's good.
Right.
Because there are people that still see the complete good in humanity and everything else. Because to not, and to feel like we're on the brink of having to, go full-fledged at each other, that's crazy, and it's selfish too.
A little disturbing.
Well, yeah, it's very disturbing. Because then again, it makes our conversation, it makes us even being able to have any sort of interaction very standoffish. And it makes it go...
Creates that space.
I go, oh man. So I go, how far do I trust this guy?
Or what is your intention, or...
Right.
Because I've had this conversation with several different individuals that would post on threads or send me a message. So it wasn't the first time, but I try to always reach out to individuals just because I like to hear everybody's point of view. I cannot make a decision or cast a judgment without knowing what the other side feels. I can't do that anymore, and that's only been the last like 6 or 7 years of my life, because I've been able to be a part of conversations, and you know, I have my Uncle Thomas, who is part Korean and part black, but he grew up in a Korean household, and you know, they had a store over on Pennsylvania Avenue, his family, and it was in the hood, but it was run by Koreans, and understanding what differences really are and not letting that define how I communicate with you. Right. Because even though this was your upbringing, this like for high school for me, I was able to make friends with these two young men. One in which I could never go to his house. The other one was I was open to go to his house, but I couldn't be there if his dad came home. And understanding those things at that age was bizarre to me, because they both could have came to my house at any time. Right. And I not understanding the basis of them knowing that and them understanding, but them still being comfortable with talking to me and having an open communication with me beyond that.
A lot of that comes down to a single word, and that's decency. Right. You obviously came from a background of decency and respectability. Right. Those gentlemen, even though even though they may have been, they weren't from that ilk. Right. So,
or just meeting a different people, you know, it opened their eyes that, oh wow, you know, this person isn't as different. Because the three of us were thick as thieves in those 4 years, and we literally went to classes together, sit together, and understand. And I had my black friends that wouldn't come over when they were sitting in the lunchroom with me, because it was just awkward. It just was awkward, but they understood that I was a part of like the theater club. And I remember being in the place, and there were no other black people in it, and feeling really awkward.
People were really rough to the theater kids.
Right.
I think that that's kind of wrong. Because you know what's crazy is that a lot of those artsy kids, like they turn in, they do a lot of good things with music. Yeah. You know. And I think I just learned how to communicate with people that didn't look like me. Right. You know, and middle school, I had one white friend. His name was Joey. He was the only white boy at the school at the time. And the rest of them, you know, I just didn't see it. You know, it wasn't in my neighborhood. Right. You know, and where I live at now, it's getting more diverse. And you see different people. You know, the Micah students are starting to blend in with the Coppin students and the Morgan students. Right. And everybody is being more diverse. But it's still not... It's still a lack of understanding, right, and just compassion for where people are, and that, I think that's why people are so angry. One of my friends called me, and she was just livid with. She read too much into my question, right, and even my responses on that thread. She was reading something in it, and she's like, "Because I never would have thought you thought that way." And I said, how couldn't you have thought that I was for all lives? In that I'm still a black person. You know, the march came through here 2 years ago, and I was a part of it. But it's still, I value lives. I want anybody to lose. If anybody loses another child, it kills me. Yeah, you know, if anybody gets killed, I don't care who you are. That's somebody else. That child has gone. Right. Whether they're adult or whether they're 3 years old, somebody else just lost a child, a family member, a loved one, a parent, a friend, a brother, a sister. Somebody just lost somebody. And the fact that you don't have compassion for that is a problem for me. Whether it was at the hands of somebody that looked like them, a police officer, or whomever, a random stranger on the street, that is still a problem. And we're attacking issues. And I understand that this fight over here for racial equality is at the utmost, especially with the atmosphere that we're living in now, where Hispanics are marginalized, Muslims are marginalized, African Americans are continuously. Even in 2017, it felt like we're living in the new apartheid. Well, the thing with some of the Muslim rhetoric, it comes, like, people don't realize this. You have the secular Muslims, you have the moderates, and then you have the extremists.
Right.
The extremists don't like anybody in this room.
Right.
They don't. And there's no deterring that. Correct. There is nothing that you can do to that. Now, again, I wanted to learn more about the Quran, so I read it.
Right.
Now, a lot of people don't understand this, is that the Quran hasn't gone through the same thing that the other major religions have.
Right.
And that's called a Reformation period.
Right.
Now, I'm not a heavily religious person. There's been things that have deterred me from those things. I've seen people use, for instance, in the Catholic Church, they use children and they abuse children and tell them that God has forgiven them for their sin. And I go, are you kidding? Like, there's a show, Keepers.
Right, yeah.
And I go, and these people, you want them to have a fair trial?
But
why?
Are you able to separate the messenger from the message? Or is it still for you all the same?
As far as all religions go?
Right.
I think that religion is a tough topic too, because it is. No, you're good. I like the dialogue, because it is, for me. Again, like, I speak for myself,
right?
And I think that there's some people that they need religion, and I think that's good for them, because
the
it gives,
structure of the building.
Exactly,
you mean.
right? Because it gives you something to gravitate and gives you something positive to grasp on. I think there's other people. They use religion, and they use it to get over on people.
They use it as a weapon as opposed to a tool.
Exactly. And you get to manipulate people. Like, for instance, I have a cousin, he's very liberal, and it's crazy to me. I sent him a video that came out, and there was a Muslim gentleman in Saudi, I believe it was Saudi Arabia or Syria, and he said that he was okay with, and he's sending his 12-year-old son off to die to kill infidels, Americans,
right,
in the name of Allah. And I go, that's your kid. That is. I get that, but I go, that's your kid. You said that you're okay with him becoming a martyr?
We're going to take a quick break. On that note, we'll be right back here on the Artist Exchange Radio Show, here live on BigExposedRadio.com. We got a lot more time. We're going to get into this. This is, I needed this because it's purging a part of me right now. But we'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. Artist Exchange Radio Show, real artists, real talk, real live, only on BigExposedRadio.com.
And again, like,
You are listening to BeExposedRadio.com, the home of Talk Lately with Monty, every Tuesday at 7 p.m.
Close your eyes and just sleep tight. Lie awake and watch.
You are listening to BeExposedRadio.com, the home of Talk Lately with Monty, every Tuesday at 7 p.m.
Check out this flashback from the Artist Exchange Radio Show.
That's the biggest thing, is just empowerment. Just get off of the begging line. Just be proud and just get our pride and our dignity back, because as a child, we're taught how to go and beg for a job. Our parents, they literally taught us how to make sure you pull your pants up. Me, I'm 6'7", so I'm a bigger man. I was always taught how to not be threatening or intimidate people when I go into different interviews or different scenarios. And so we're literally taught how to condition ourselves, condition our speech, everything, in order to go and beg these people for a job, because we know when we walk in the door, I have to tear down 10 stereotypes before I get past hello. So we need to eliminate that. And we need to eliminate that, and the way that we do that is employing ourselves and employing our brothers and sisters. And so that's our mission, is group economics, uplift ourselves, because I can't empower anyone until I empower myself, and change from just being willing, because it's in my heart and my passion to see my people succeed and see us do better and change the social order, because I know that we are not supposed to be on bottom. I understand who I was. I know I didn't fall out of the sky and land on a plantation. So when you have knowledge of self and you know who you are and what you come from, it's frustrating more than anything to see us in this position.
Tune into the Artist Exchange every Friday 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. every Saturday 12 p.m. to 2 p.m. live BigExposedRadio.com.
Man, it is what it is. Man, it is what it is. Well, it is what it is.
This fly T Miles, also known as Tyree Miles, and Mr. Miles the writer.
Hip Hop King. Check us out every Friday on Be Exposed Radio at 9/11.
Coming to y'all soon.
Check out this flashback of the Artist Exchange Radio Show on BeExposedRadio.com.
So we're going to get a little bit into the album with Miss Amira and learn the basis of it, the Banji soul of it all.
Yes.
So let us know, first of all, what is Banji soul?
Banji soul is basically just real. It's real soul. It's real. It's not cut down. It's not watered down. It's, you know, how as hot as it came off of my mind and my heart. That's what it is. And a lot of the times I get a little tangy, you know, banji, ratchet, whatever, however you like to put it, classify it. But I like to say banji, you know, because I'm classy.
Banji is a little classier.
It's a little classier. That's got your pinky up.
Right.
You got your pinky up with that.
Okay, we got to keep the B's, the bougie, the banji.
Yeah.
Right.
So she's created her own lane, Banji soul. So let us know how that is covered in the album that released on the 9th of this month, right?
Yes. Well, I did it to a number of industry tracks, including like the Beatles Come Together, and I did a Lindsay Lohan joint. You remember the Confessions of a Broken Heart?
Okay.
And a lot of stuff I aimed to like change the theme that was originated, or just to. It was my therapy.
Okay.
It was my therapy.
So that's why this is a mixtape.
Yes.
Okay, because you did a lot of remakes. Okay, I got you. The Artist Exchange Radio Show every Friday, 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. Every Saturday, 12 p.m. to 2 p.m. Real artist, real talk, real live.
Hey everybody, check out what you missed on the one and only Be Inspired Radio Show.
I'm just thankful this year I've dealt with, you know, some growing pains, and I've overcome some things, and I've also, you know, accomplished some things in the process. I've learned some things. Like, I've learned I learned that everybody loves your work until they got to pay for it. That's what I learned. That's what I learned. I learned everybody loves what you do.
The pay?
I mean,
not always.
Listen, the Bible says money answereth all things.
Well,
okay, and there is a place. There is a place where finances is necessary. And when you got kids and when you got a wife and then you doing everything and you know you top dog at what you do, especially when you weren't in the same place you, like with this radio show, you ain't in the same place you were a year ago. Should nobody be coming on the show and not donating to your show?
Can you say that on my show?
Should nobody be coming to your show?
Can you say that in the middle of the live?
Make that a promo, please.
Should nobody come on this show without donating?
That is a nice commercial.
I don't care if it's $20.
Donate.
Tune in to Be Inspired every Wednesday live at 7 p.m. right here on Be Exposed Radio.
You are listening to BeExposedRadio.com.
A voice, and it doesn't allow like big states like California, Texas, Florida,
to have more power.
Correct. And which is good because then it creates like the, you know, but again it goes back to a Congress thing. Like Congress hated that guy, right? And I think he's an idiot.
I don't think Congress hated him.
No, they did. There were so many of these folks that had zero, because they were like, this guy's got zero couth, and I can agree with that. Like,
but they didn't do anything.
Well, they had the ability,
right,
to shut that down, and they didn't. And I was like, well, they're gonna shut it down, and then it's game over, right? And I was like, so what are they gonna do after that? And then there was all the talk that Obama was gonna declare martial law, and they do all this crazy stuff, right? So I'm pretty anti-government when it comes down to a lot of different things, because I believe that, like, when they shut down, when the government shut down, and then the administration, I think it was the Obama administration, when they shut down the parks and they shut down the DC stuff and everything else. Everything else ran smoothly, right? Like, you went to work that day?
Yeah.
Right. Okay,
everybody normal.
Everything was normal, but they took away our parks to go, so you still need us. Because again, like, we all have the ability to govern ourselves through just basic life principle.
Right.
You know? And again, we need to get back to that. Again, I know from...
And not just be this ping pong table, this tennis match of politics.
Right. Correct. Because again, I'm big on policy when it comes down to politics. I don't care about... Right. I don't care about what, you know, blah, blah, blah. I don't care. Like, what are you passing? What are you getting done? What is your train of thought? How are you going to make it so, like, I want a flat tax rate. Okay? I'm telling you that right now. I want a flat tax rate. Okay? Now, part of the way that the system is set up, it is screwing taxpayers, right? And
the everyday taxpayer.
Yes, exactly. Because, and again, like for my side business, I have to pay twice the taxes basically. So I already know for every $1,000 I make, I have to pull off $150, and then I have to pay Social Security twice. As the employer, as the employee.
So we're back here on the Artist Exchange Radio Show, and it may seem like we're all over the place, but myself and Marc is just meeting each other, and it's just a lot that we want to get out in terms of just the idea of us not knowing what's on the other side of that line, that race line, that cultural line, and realizing not only are there many similarities and many allies on both sides, but just as many things that keep us separate could be just as many things that keep us together. And if I had one more person that wishes for segregation to happen again or go back to segregation, it's going to make me cringe. Like my head's going to pop off. And we're talking more in this segment about politics in terms of
segregation was the stupidest thing ever. And so like again, I didn't grow up in that era, right? But I listened to Larry King when he was on his way out of the door. He did I think it was an interview with the Breakfast Club. Right. I don't know if you're a big fan of those guys or not.
Yeah, I know Charlamagne.
I'm familiar with Evie on a different level with music, but the way he put it made complete sense. Like, you have to help those people that you're pushing to the side. Like, when you've made now 2 bathrooms, you've made now 2 water fountains. Do you realize the amount of time, money, and effort that you've wasted?
But hatred doesn't care about that.
No, I get that. But that's why like I like free markets, because again, and there's a guy, his name is he's a bit
now real quick. Now, people have an understanding of what free market is, but why do you support the free market system?
Why? Well, okay, for one, it allows people to not be bullied in their point of view. So for instance, now, do I think if again, it goes back to a big debate that's going on with the Christian bakers. Do I think that it's right that a Christian baker doesn't want to bake a gay couple a cake? No, I think that's idiotic. Why? Because money doesn't understand the what those people are doing.
Right.
Money doesn't care. So there's going to be a guy who's going to open up a bakery. He's going to take that business from that guy. And guess what? He's going to get wealthy because he has a smart train of thought. Because he's open-minded. Because guess what? You're allowed to play ball then.
But the free market system also, for me, it creates that type of separation in that it is a hard thing to say, because this is my business and I should be able to run it morally how I choose to run it, and not be subjected to how you personally feel about my business. But at the same time, if you have a publicly run business, and most businesses are public run, you cannot discriminate against people.
I agree. No,
and just in general,
I think it's stupid, but it's publicly ran, but it's privately owned.
But you don't feel like the government should be able to say, but
if they start to tell us how we should operate, things like that, I think that it goes to say that there will be a lot of other things that they're going to come down the line,
like they've already done. But if you look at it in terms of them telling us and them not protecting us, like for me, I look at it as the government is there to protect us from somebody saying, because I live this way, or because what happens when what happens then when you don't want to sell me a cake because I'm a black person? That's the part where it gets scary for me.
I get
that's
that.
the part where, because if your sexuality becomes an issue, then your race will then again become an issue, or you on welfare, or whatever your given circumstances then becomes fodder for you to be able to say, I don't want to have you in here.
That could happen. Not likely. But if it does, again,
we've already lived through that, so it's possible.
But it goes back to the fact that there will be another business that will meet your need.
But at the same time, because this is America, yes, there's another business that will, but there's also going to be another business that won't. And then we went through Jim Crow and segregation, and I'm sorry, I'm a generation from it. You know, my mother had to go to an all-black school.
Right.
You know, so that's the disconnect that I do see amongst races, because it's easier for someone who is in this situation that's not black to understand free market and understand a time where you don't have a connection with having to go into a back room in order to go into a restaurant, or I had to go into a shoe store and I had to buy the shoes because I wasn't allowed to try them on, whether they fit my foot or not.
Right.
I wasn't allowed to try the shoes on. And that is my problem with the free market system, because that is possible. Again, that opens the door for somebody to say, to size me up and say, nope, you can't come in here.
I do get that concern.
Not even to say that bakery is that extreme, because they've said just that one thing.
Right.
But again, they won't post that on anywhere. Like, we don't serve homosexuals here. They won't post it.
And again,
because it's illegal.
Well, I think it's stupid.
It's very stupid.
Because if you run a business, your goal at the end of the day is to make money and to provide for your family and to hopefully be able to leave them with something. So why? Because again, if you shut down somebody because of their creed, sexuality, whatever, then you don't also know that person. So you could be missing out on something.
Yeah.
You could be missing out on a lifelong friendship.
But people are not looking that way.
I agree. And I remember I had a boss that was gay, right? And if you'd heard the way he talked, you'd never know he was gay at all. But he was married at one point, and then I said, "Well, how did you know you were gay?" And he was like, "Oh, I woke up with my would-be husband in a hotel room," and I was like, "All right,
kind of a way of knowing."
Yeah, hey. So I was like, "All right, well, hey, that again, that's
your funny." Kind of woke up with a man, so kind of figured something happened.
Yeah. So, right, yeah, weird story, right? And he was, and this is back before the gay marriage thing was allowed to go through. Now, people that again aren't super religious like myself,
right?
I look at it and go, I'm not directly a man of any organized anything except for the morality that's been intact in me and how I feel like I should treat people,
right?
And how I was brought up to treat people as individuals. Like you don't label the group, you label the individual. Because if you're a jerk, right, and the young man back there is a nice guy, why should I take you being a jerk out on him?
Right. But that's what happens, though.
Yeah, and it's selfish and it's stupid, right?
It's easier for me to just generalize than it is for me to deal with each individual person.
And of course, there's a broader sector to that, because again, we're not talking about. It starts with our daily interactions with each other.
Right.
That's where a lot of it starts, and a lot of it happens because. There's just so many questions, and there's a lot that can be done, I think, and I think that
there's tons that can be done. It's just you and not you, but individuals just deciding, look, this not working no more. Is miscommunication is leading to too much, and I know what the problem is, and let's just fix this. But pride, legacy, just routineness gets into the way of that.
So we have some property that we deal with down in Cherry Hill. Okay, now 4 years ago, right around with that areas, I wouldn't have went down there.
Right.
For that, I don't think most people would have went down there unless you lived down there.
I was born there, and I wouldn't have went down there.
Right. So okay, so you So they've changed up a lot of the community as far as not what it looks like, but what the community is doing. Like they've allowed the community residents to buy houses. Now, me being the type of thinker that I am, I love that idea. Why? Because when you allow people who live in that community who are renting, when you allow them to own, right? Not allow, it's a goofy word. When you give the option to own, right? And you're a landlord, and let's say that you don't want that property anymore, or your family owned 10 of them. Well, now you allow the residents to buy those. Okay, now you have people that are taking pride in the neighborhood. So what happens with that is,
because the assumption is that renters don't have the same responsibility to the property as somebody who owns it does.
Well, not only that, but okay, so think about when you have realtors, and I know from dealing with the real estate market, that they go, well, your rent might be $1,000, but your mortgage on here, granted your down payment or your credit or whatever is going to be like $700, $800, right? Correct. And they go, well, but I don't know if I could fix it or maintain it or anything else like that's the landlord's responsibility, and that deters people. It does deter people
because you feel like you out.
Hot water heaters are expensive. Plumbing is expensive.
A roof is expensive.
Correct.
Electricity.
But while you're in there renting and you get the option to buy, why not work something out with the landlord while they get somebody in there to check everything out?
Well, people don't know that you can still hire on a property management company,
which I work
to do those things.
Yeah, which I work for.
You can as a homeowner, you can still subcontract a property management company to be able to come in and handle those things for a flat rate every month.
Yeah, we do it all the time.
But people don't know those things,
and
ignorance becomes with the barrier.
In the Cherry Hill neighborhood, do you know where Swale and Ascension are? Okay, so let's say you've turned on to Southland, okay, and then you're coming down Southland, and then there's that row of I guess they're fairly new rentals.
Right.
Okay, I don't know. And then they built single families up around the corner, right off the Hanover, right on Cherry Hill Road.
I know what you're talking about.
All right, so there's a section of rentals that goes, let's say this represents like a quarter mile or maybe half. Okay. All those in there are going up for sale, and the residents
have first priority.
Yes, great idea. Why? Because what happens is then when those people pass on, if their kids are interested in the property, well, guess what? Now, if you either have your own property, or now you have the ability to rent that out.
And that it's smart in terms of redevelopment.
Yes.
And it kind of counteracts gentrification, because now the people don't have to be displaced somewhere else. And Section 8 creates a culture of so this is my mom's Section 8. I'm not supposed to be there after a certain time, but say something happens to me, I have to get permission for my child to come stay with me if my child falls on a hard time. And then if something happens to me, everybody got to go.
And that's part of the provision I was talking to you about when I said that sometimes they don't want the man in the house at that point.
Right.
And again, some of this goes back to a term called democratic slavery at times. That's where part of it is linked to, because it's saying that you need the government. You need them to help you with this, and this, right?
Well, I see it, and I understand what you're saying, but those systems were put into place because there was such a gap in wealth. Right. There was such a gap in resources. There were people who needed to come up out of Jim Crow, and they needed those subsidies, or I can't remember, subsidies, and they needed those programs to just get by.
Correct.
Because they weren't able to work, they weren't given work, and there was such a gap in the poverty versus wealth bracket.
Right. But why take the man out of the household? It's stupid because
it is,
and it's goofy because again it goes back to you've also then at that point created a culture and a stigmatism that now you've made it already harder for people that are living in poverty to get out of.
But see, that's still not the same narrative for most people. Yes, because the situation is I'm having children out of wedlock, and whether they're a number of parents or children or whatever, the dad is not there for whatever reason.
Correct.
But there are plenty of situations where the parent is still there, and they're both living under social service or those types of subsidies, and they need help as a family unit. So that's still not the narrative for everybody. Because I know, coming from Cherry Hill, that's not the story of everybody.
No.
The dad is there, and he legally he may not supposed to be there, but they're still there, or the Section 8 is under their name, the family's name.
Right.
But what is happening is the narrative then becomes that only the black mother is there.
Right.
And the black dad isn't there, or the white dad isn't there, or so on and so forth, and that becomes the narrative. But when you examine the situation, there are a lot more fathers that are in the homes, and they just don't have the money to make ends meet. Right, so I'm just saying, like, that becomes a discrepancy because now we're fighting for the black mother to be reunited with the black father, and that's an issue that has nothing to do with government.
No.
That's you choosing somebody based on you want to have sex with somebody versus you want to be in a relationship with them long term. Like that has to be an issue, but that's the government can't regulate, whether or not you have a healthy relationship with men and women. Like that, the government can't do that. But I do understand where you're coming from. I do get that.
And again, I think again, like I think this whole generation though, whether whatever side of the fence that you sit on color-wise, I think there's a big gap in the importance overall though as well in family too. And
because a lot more people are selfish now.
A lot of people don't know how to respect themselves in context to a relationship. Like there's constant examples of girls like going back to dudes that are abusive and everything else, and then you go, either you're used to feeling that way, or you feel needed by him in a certain way.
I mean that, but simply I didn't have certain things growing up, and this man, I would rather take a beating versus being out in this world by myself.
And that's
that simple.
And that's an emptiness.
But that's something government can't help.
No, definitely not. I would never want them. Well, they try to do that. They come in with their pad and they write you a prescription for Paxil, or Zoloft, and they say life's hard. Here you go.
Yeah.
And not saying that's going to turn around and make you break into cars and houses and homes.
But you don't know, because if you're solving everything with a prescription pad, then people aren't being healed. You're just masking and putting a Band-Aid over what the real problem is. And simply, that young man just didn't have a dad in the house, or that young man didn't get X, Y, and Z, and didn't have the resources that all these children over here got. Like that. I do think government has become too
involved
in our everyday lives.
I definitely agree.
But that came for a reason.
Right.
People were not able to deal with the day-to-day lives of education. Education, it was segregation in the educational system. The government had to step in. In the healthcare system, the government had to step in. Free market, the government had to step in. Food industry, the government had to step in. But then what happened when the government got there, the power started to be voted in and out, and people began to buy their seats, so on and so forth, in government. So what then began to happen was the people who were there to protect us began to look out for thereir own interest.
There's the other underlying issue is there's zero consistency.
Yeah,
because again, like you're in and out. I don't know if you're familiar with this gentleman. He's running for the 45th district, and his name is Lindsey Jackson.
Of Maryland? I mean, Baltimore.
Yeah, Baltimore. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I recommend. He's been doing a lot of groundwork, a lot of leg work. I recommend you getting him on here.
Okay.
He is a fantastic human being.
And what is his platform?
He's running for the 45th district, and he worked with the mayor's office.
Okay.
And unfortunately, some people that I was working for.
And that's like Park Heights, if I'm not.
I believe. Yes.
Yeah, that's in that area.
Zone 1, 5, all that.
1, 5, 1, 6.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So, he's a fantastic guy, and unfortunately, me and his relationship started out on a not so good note through some people that I was working with when I worked for a talent agency. Okay. And he had contacted me to book, I think it was Toya Wright, which happens to be the baby mother of Lil Wayne. Yeah. So I had a relationship with her camp, and reached out, and we were working on a deal, and then the guy who I was working for directly, they pulled some funny moves and screwed the times up by double booking her because she was in the area, and the deal ended up falling through. Luckily, and so he didn't take it personally coming from me, because again, he knew that like it was out of my hands as far as that went, because if I'd had my way, she would have been there. Right. So me and him kind of started to build a rapport like outside of that. And I've been following his like political career, and he's starting to get more and more and more. And he's a guy like, he really dedicates his, I've never really seen anytime I spent in Baltimore City showing houses or doing whatever, I've never seen any politicians in the street. Never. This guy,
you don't see him in that office.
They don't even live in the city.
I used to live off of like Forest Park, that Hilton area.
Yeah.
That's where a lot of their city homes are.
Right.
But you notice, the grass is always groomed or not, and nobody goes in and out of that house. Maybe once or twice. Yeah, that's when you would see it. Right across from the reservoir.
Yeah, I used to work. We used to do a lot of work on a house off of Cooks Lane. Okay. So right up there off Edmondson Avenue and all that. Yeah. So but I mean, this guy, like, you'll see him like in the street, like you'll see him helping out with the different, he's really actually like trying to make a difference. And the effort, when you're trying to make the difference.
But those people are outweighed by the people who get in it for their own selfish needs. And we've seen that in this last mayoral election here in the city. Yeah, we saw it was a clear distinction of who was there to help and who wasn't there to help.
I wanted Sheila Dixon.
And
it's like, she did something wrong for the right reason. She stole the gift cards. Right?
Allegedly, she stole the gift cards
and gave them and gave them away.
Well, no, the thing was, the gentleman who gave the gift cards to her to then supposedly give out, then turned around and said he gave them to her to give out to city people.
And she gave them to the kids.
And she used them herself.
She used them herself?
Now, the thing was, as smart as I know Sheila Dixon is, she would not have, and this is just my opinion, she would have not used gift cards. And then what happened was, she used the gift cards and it didn't equal up to what she bought, so she used her personal credit card in order to pay for the difference. That was one issue. But then she did not disclose gifts that this same gentleman had given to her.
So it was like a political contribution all wrong.
Right.
We can name hundreds of them.
Yeah, but politicians do that all the time.
And when way worse things.
So you give somebody, so this business gives gift cards, and I used the gift card, and it wasn't the intended use of it, but because she was a politician, she didn't disclose what she had over here. But in that last election, I saw a lot of people who were supposed to do this and didn't do this and said they were going to do this. So we had all these candidates coming out who just said, well, you know what? I can be a mayor of this city. Right, I can be the mayor of this city. I have a college degree, and that was it. I was on the ROTC board or I was on a student government, I can be the mayor of this city, and that was it. So you didn't care.
But again, like, unfortunately, it shows the
no shade to anybody, but it was a couple of them on there.
But it also, like, it shows you where we are, the state of how we feel and trust the politicians.
And we fall for promises. I don't want promises anymore. Like, I get tired of politicians making promises that they know they can't commit to. You making promises and you're playing on the needs of individuals. The whole idea of Pew, giving out chicken boxes to people to come. Hey, I'll give you a chicken box, and if you just get on our van and we'll take you to the polls.
Do you know who else did that?
Who?
Do you know who did that? So again, my family, when they were in New York, my grandmother was growing up. She said that the lefties would pull up into the poor German, Irish, Italian neighborhoods, and they give the drunks a bottle or a fifth, and they take them to the polls and say, you see, the Democrats, we care about you, the Republicans hate you, they're racist, they're this, they're that, they're this or that. And it was the Democrats, and they were picking these people up, and they take them to the polls saying, you see, I take care of your needs. You wanted this, and I got it to you.
And I fall back from saying the Democrats did it, the Republicans did it. People do it. People who want to be elected do it. But I get, you have to expose both sides of the coin in order to make change happen and to make things not happen that way again. But people have done that for years to get on the ballots, and it's crazy. But I don't see us having another Obama for a very long time, and that's good. That hardens. My heart is weak to think that, but nobody's gonna care again like that. To that level.
So, was it for the fact that he's relatable to a lot of minorities through skin color, or was it because of thought process? Because there's a lot of people that when Ben Carson lives, I'd say, like 10 minutes from me, and from my understanding, I haven't had an interaction with him yet. If I bump into him, hey, what's going on, man? I think you're a great surgeon. I think
great story, great.
Yeah. Of course. And I'm, like I said, I'm hoping I bump into him one day, but I haven't yet. I just, I'd like to meet the man. And
now, we assumed that Carson was going to be that person,
but he opened his mouth, right?
But he's not, and that goes to show you, it doesn't matter where you come from or what your upbringing was. This same man who could not read up until the 5th grade, then becomes one of the world-renowned brain surgeons, the best in his field, could have viewpoints like that, and you forget where you come from. And I'm not saying you have to bring the hood, quote unquote, bring the hood with you, but you have to understand that people don't want to be in this situation. His mother did not want to be illiterate, nor did he want to be illiterate. That was just the circumstance that he was brought up in. And just like he pulled himself up and got it together, with the same resources, anybody else could do that. But if you're void of resources, if you're telling me because there aren't enough taxpayers in a specific area code, then I can't have schools, that's a problem, because somebody's paying taxes on that property. Somebody is paying taxes for that area on that property, whether it's the landlord or the grandmother or whomever. Somebody's paying taxes. So you're telling me there's not enough children for this to fill up this school, but yet you took this same school and you made it 3 different schools. So the same amount of school children are going there, but now I got to go across town to be able to get into a school that I'm in. I think we got one more segment, 2 more, no more, 1 more. This the last one. Wow, the conversation is over. So Mark, I am inviting him to come back again and again and again. It's a conversation that is definitely needed, that is valuable, and I knew I was going to get this conversation. It wasn't a concern for me. I wasn't like testing the waters, because if I thought it was going to be something crazy, I wouldn't have reached out to begin with, and I'm quite sure you wouldn't have. But I really thank you for coming on, and
yeah, I appreciate it.
Because we were prepared to put the bubble over his face and give him all the privacy that he requested. But I just think conversation needs to happen. You know,
when you said that, I was like, I'm coming down here to have a conversation with you. I don't need a bubble. I want to talk to you.
But some people feel that way.
Well, but it goes back to the fact that, you know, some people, it's because they haven't the thought process when they go to say anything. They just say it, like, and
I value that too.
And they have poor intent anyway.
Yeah, but I still value poor intent. I value you being blunt and a straight shooter, because then I know what you're feeling. I don't want somebody to tell me this is what it is, and then it's something totally different on black and white. Or I sign a contract and all the hidden language is in.
That's the contract, though.
Yeah, right. I don't want to do that. I don't want that to happen. I want open communication. Yeah. And here on the Artist Exchange radio show, I promote open conversation and dialogue with people who wouldn't normally cross paths with each other.
Yeah, I saw the one show that you just did with the Artist Compound. I like that.
Yeah, and that's just what I do. So we gonna talk, and maybe Mark will be sitting in this seat at one point. We never know what happens on Be Exposed Radio. So stay tuned, stay locked in. We'll be here tomorrow at 12 p.m. with authors from the African American Authors Expo. We have 3 authors in the building. I had to read so much. My mind is going to explode soon, but it's all for the better, it's all for the good. Coming up next, It Is What It Is radio show with Tyree Miles and his crew, so definitely stay tuned for that. And we're going to continue to talk to Mark after the show is over and see when he's going to come back. So definitely stay tuned, stay locked in. Tomorrow, 12 p.m. sharp, be here or be square. The Artist Exchange Radio signing off. Me, your host, Nate. HullyWood will be joining us tomorrow, so don't worry, he'll be back. Thanks again, sir.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you again, sir. Thank you so much. So that's the Artist Exchange show. Signing out.
I had got drunk one night. This is the night that I put my head through the window and everything. So.
Why would you do that?
Now, I was sitting on the floor.
All these stories always involve